What's up, everybody? I'm Nick Campo. This is Matthew Query. Freedom Home Services inspections. They're huge. We have a great episode for you. Big Boss Ben is out there. He'll be back with us on Friday. As I've said in the past, Tuesday, we're going to try and do 9:30 to 10:30, but we're a little bit late today. Forgot the memory cards. We will have guests. This is our Building Wealth Through Real Estate home services, home inspections. That's a big part of it. Before we get started, do me a favor. Go ahead and bang that red subscribe button. Turn on the notifications. Follow us at MBI Financial Group on all of our social media. I'm MTG Man Nick, Mortgage Man Nick. On all the social media, follow us there. We got Mike Allman, so it's Mike_Allman07. Matthew, go ahead and tell them where to find you.
Yeah, Facebook is Freedom Home Services LLC, and Instagram is Freedom Inspections.
Awesome. So I thought it was extremely important to have you on the podcast because, first and foremost, I work with a ton of real estate investors. And with real estate investors, I think home inspections are absolutely a must.
Yep.
You have to know what you're getting into because you make your money on the purchase. And if you don't know what you're purchasing, how are you going to make your money?
Yeah. 100%.
Secondly, I saw some really cool, go follow him on social media. He puts a lot of tips and stuff on his social media. I saw a very cool post that piqued my interest. I was like, I have to get Matthew on. And then also you did the inspection at both my house and my dad's house when we went to purchase and did an absolutely awesome job. But yeah, the post was about new builds, and right now, because of the housing shortage, which we talk about on this podcast all the time, new builds are just flying up. We're actually working a couple land deals where it's development, and one of them is 2,600 units, and they're going to build those in like 3 years.
Sure.
Definitely get an inspection because that's a fast 2,600 units. Talk a little bit about. Let's start at the beginning. Where you come from, how you got here, how you started your business, what you did prior to starting your business. Just tell your story.
Yeah, cool. Well, first of all, honor to be here.
Yeah,
chat
absolutely.
with you. Yeah, for sure. This is awesome. So I'm originally from Indiana, moved down here in 2006.
Okay.
Was actually working for Pulte Homes at the time.
Nice.
And the housing market had already started to crash at that time up in Indiana, up in the Midwest. And so almost before I even got started, I got laid off.
Oh, wow.
But they're like, but we like you.
What year was that?
It was like 2005.
2005.
Yeah, 2006. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, 2006 I moved here. So they said, hey, we'll help you find another place within our company if you want to stay. And
Nice.
they brought me down here in January. It's beautiful, compared to Indiana.
Oh, yeah. Freezing
Gray
cold.
and freezing cold. Yeah. You're from New York,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
exactly.
Upstate New York.
Yeah.
It's 10 degrees colder than the city up there. So
Exactly. So I came down here. I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So picked up everything and moved. Met my wife a year later, and actually a year after that, I got laid off again.
Oh, no.
2008.
Same company.
Yes,
But that's the housing crash.
that was a housing crash. So it hit us here. Couldn't find anything. I couldn't find a job at Lowe's or Home Depot, anywhere. It's crazy. So I started business for myself, just hustling. I would go out, I'd do pressure washing, I'd do handyman stuff. It was kind of during that transitionary time that I actually went and got my contractor's license in South Carolina. Started doing modular homes, actually. I was a superintendent, drove all over North and South Carolina. I was their superintendent.
Okay.
It was really awesome because I got to do a lot of land stuff, land clearing, well, septic, all the stuff that you need kind of for country houses.
Right.
And ended up at True Homes as a builder, and also ran the warranty team for a year and a half, 2 years, and also very short stint with another company that will not be mentioned after that. And
Was it a bad ending?
well, yeah, it wasn't great. I left, I quit, but ultimately, like, a mentor of mine at True had spoken to me, something I didn't want to hear at the time.
Right.
He said, you're really good at inspecting houses. You would be a good home inspector.
Why didn't you want to hear that?
Because I hated home inspectors.
Why?
Yeah. So,
Most people do, actually.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we hate to see the inspector come on the job site when we're out building.
Yeah. The reason for that is a lot of them are not as knowledgeable as they should be, especially with new construction. They may have knowledge for a lot of other things as it comes, like older houses, different things like that. But the problem I had was they tried to bolster themselves up and make a problem out of something that really wasn't a problem. They either knew about already, but they put it in their list anyway. And so this relationship I had tried to build up with the client, you know, I was with them for 3 to 6 months, depending on kind of when they went under contract. It would be ruined in one fell swoop, and then lack of trust.
Right.
And so it was like, these guys.
Right.
Well, yeah, it was already developed in the market about, you know, the inspectors coming in. So even when you did come in, especially if you didn't know the client right offhand, you are already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and then the biggest thing too, and we find this in the mortgage world, is when we're trying to win a deal, it's all about trust. And if the client doesn't trust you, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah. So kind of when I left that company, that last company, I actually had, since I already had my South Carolina license, I basically went back and took another test to get the South Carolina home inspector license, because they both fall under residential builder licensure in South Carolina. So I got that, and I went cold turkey. Fortunately, my wife was working, because that's very difficult to do, starting your own business. But I reached into all of the relationships I had built over the years and started getting home inspections. And really what I wanted to do is just do a good job, and I didn't want to scare the client. That was kind of the big thing. And I sat down with a lot of real estate agents, and that was a big thing. Like, don't scare my clients. Don't scare my clients. Like, okay, I hear a similar theme there. That's kind of what they're concerned about, because they've worked for a really long time too.
Right.
Realtors work their tails off.
Right.
Well, so do the homeowners. I mean, they're trying to get ready for you. You know, like I thought I had everything together, and you know, there may have been a couple of things that were missed, and it's how the inspector portrays it back to them.
You mean the builder?
Well,
The
either way.
Yeah, you're talking about the builder.
So the new home.
the homeowners. Gotcha. I was confused there.
As
Sorry.
a seller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place.
It's all good. No, and actually, because of that, we actually developed a pre-listing inspection checklist.
Oh, nice.
We
That's
actually
good.
send it to every listing agent prior to the inspection. Now, unfortunately, the majority of realtors don't open the emails.
Can you send that to us? Because that's a great
100%.
thing for our team to get with agents on and be like, hey, by the way, here's a pre-listing inspection. So like you do a lot of listings, great.
Yeah.
Here's an inspection checklist.
Yeah.
So
It's just little
help
stuff.
streamline the process.
Yeah,
Right.
because I mean, people hate it. We have to call out, light bulbs. It's so change your light bulbs, make sure all they're working. Change your filter. That's little. There's like 3 columns on one page of things to do.
yeah, little things.
So and that's what really makes people angry. Usually is the little stuff. Why did you call it that stupid bulb? You have to think about, now that I'm on the other side, home inspectors have a lot of liability. We literally look at thousands of components within a house, and we're responsible for a lot. And if something goes wrong, even a day after closing, it's the home inspector's fault. Like, why doesn't my HVAC work? Well, I'm sorry. Like, it was working perfectly
Right.
Been there, done that.
when we inspected the house. And
Right.
so, or that light bulb was out. Well, actually, you didn't call that out, and it was the whole fixture that was bad, or there was some wiring internally so you just never know. And so a lot of it is that CYA stuff that you have to do, and some of it is actually state mandated. We've got some, they don't like to say mandated, but it's heavily suggested
Right. that
you use certain statements. And so, like for North Carolina, for example, you have to put in, like, it's called DDID, description of the defect, implication of the defect, and then the determination. Like, how do you go about, what do you recommend? Which is always like, I recommend a licensed contractor to come fix this.
Right.
And so all of that stuff can be really wordy. And so, like, when you read the report, you want to have somebody that will set expectations in advance that can bring the level down, right? Hey, you're going to get this report. It's going to be 50 to 100 pages. Don't worry about that. We have to be thorough. So you're welcome, right?
Right.
Your money is well spent because we've documented everything from doors that don't work all to potential, structural
And it doesn't
issues.
mean it's a bad house.
Doesn't mean it's a bad house. And so my mentality and the mentality that I put within my company is everything can be fixed
For sure.
because it can. And what I jokingly say, not to clients, but I mean, obviously maybe some clients will see this, but even if it's a can of gas and a match, we can still fix it, right? So ultimately, like, you can fix it, right? It depends on the time, the money, different things. How badly do you really want this house? Maybe you just want it for the property.
Right.
It's a dumpster fire house and you're going to live in it for a couple of years, but ultimately you're going to demo the thing and you just want to know, is it livable now?
Right.
That's a great thing for investors. Like,
For sure.
Like it's kind of how we got on this.
Oh, yeah.
Like, my whole spiel is like, investors need to know, can I live in it quickly? Do I have to do a lot of renovations?
Mm-hmm.
Are those renovations going to be expensive?
Mm-hmm.
What's my ROI going to be?
Right.
Am I going to be able to make money on this house, or am I going to lose it?
Right.
Are you going to rent it? What are the different options?
Yeah, everything is about that structural portion is what
Yes.
us investors are going to be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then the other piece is different investors want different things, right? So some investors
Mm-hmm.
are going to want, like, we look for dilapidated properties
Mhm.
that have good bones. So it's like, hey, Matthew, we're looking for a dilapidated property. So you're going to walk into this and there might be like cat feces everywhere. I'm sorry you have to do this. I just want to know that the structure is good because we're going down to the studs.
Yeah.
We're doing all of that. We already know we're doing that. We just want to make sure if there's a structural issue, you can point it out so that I can get a structural engineer out here to take a look at it and figure out what that cost is up front. Or you have the people who want to buy a townhome that everything on the outside is taken care of and everything inside is good, and they can just plug somebody in, and they're maybe not looking for as much cash flow. They're just looking to gain the equity and appreciation.
Yeah, 100%. And I love those older houses. I grew up in an old house.
Oh, yeah.
And so we actually offer kind of a modified inspection for
nice.
investors. It's less expensive than a normal inspection,
Okay.
but it's heavily modified, and we create an agreement specifically for that. So you want just the structure inspected. Okay, cool. We can do that. We just have to make sure that we note that according to our state standards.
Right.
And so we can come in and just evaluate structure. We can come in and evaluate structure, plumbing, major electrical, major HVAC if you want.
Right.
Just depends on what the investor wants. So it's kind of like an a la carte inspection. Plus, we can do termites inspections too, because
You want to
usually want to know
definitely
that.
want Yeah. So question for you, you have somebody buying an older house, and you know that you're going to find stuff typically in an older house. You're going to find stuff in a new house, and we'll get to that. But you know that you're going to find stuff in an older house. How do you, and just say it's primary residence, person moving in there to live, maybe have a young family, first-time home buyer, whatever. How do you have a conversation with them to let them know, like, hey, listen, stuff is going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to know that because this house was built in 1945, whatever year it was, 1810, whatever, right?
Oldest house I've inspected, 1780.
1780. Where was that?
York, right next to the York Bank.
How much would you find there?
Actually, the bones were really, really good.
You want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
That's my Aunt Agnes' house.
That's hilarious.
That is funny. Small world.
Well, she's like great Aunt Agnes to my mother.
Is it yellow?
It's right across the street from First Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
So if you come out, it has that big porch that goes downstairs, right off the front.
There's actually a slave quarters under that
Yes,
front
that's
porch.
exactly.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
exactly whose house that is.
Wow, that's crazy.
That is wild.
Yeah. Anyway, we
small
digress.
world.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
love old houses.
Small
Yeah.
world. Mike's related to everybody here.
It's
the
fun.
lawyer downstairs is also his cousin. So
That's hilarious.
Shout out to Des Law Firm.
small. That's small town living in the South.
Yeah,
You know,
love
so
it, yeah.
that's small town living. Period. I was related to everybody in upstate New York. So, so when you're prepping them, when it comes to, hey, this is an older home, we're gonna find stuff. Doesn't mean it's bad home. Like, how do you frame that?
Yeah. So it actually starts before.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an automated text. We have a lot of automated texts and emails that go out, but one of the ones we send out about an hour before the inspection starts, basically says, hey, is there anything that you're concerned about?
Right.
So we can tell the inspector. When they come to the inspection, one of the first things we say is, of course, hey, welcome to your new house. This is beautiful. I'm really excited
Yeah.
for you, right? Because I'm not going to downplay somebody's dreams. It may
Right.
not be the house for me, but like they're excited about it. They're under contract.
Right. 100%. And nobody's more excited than the
Yeah,
person under
exactly.
contract.
And so if I can come in right away and say, hey, we got your text. I saw that you were concerned about this, this, and this. And usually it's like, I got a crack in the wall, like this crack. And I can say,
Foundation issue.
yeah, I looked at this crack for you. Everything seems to be fine. It's just a drywall,
Right.
tape seam, whatever, that takes them down a level. But the other thing I do is I ask them what their experience is. How many is this your first home you purchased? Because I don't know that.
Right.
That's not intel we necessarily gather when we take the order.
Would it help?
I don't know. Sometimes it's difficult just to get the bare minimum because
Right.
we don't typically talk to the client. We're talking to the agent.
Right.
And they're just like, just take the info and book it, and so I think it's a relationship building rather
Right,
than just
right.
coming in with a bunch of assumptions. You have some good questions. People like to talk about themselves, of course, as I'm doing, which feels great. Thanks.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
That's
So-
the whole point of the podcast.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
to hear other people's perspective.
Yeah. So I find out where they're at. Maybe they bought and sold a bunch of properties. Okay, well, this is going to be really similar to what you're used to. Of course, we're really thorough, so that may be a little bit different. You've seen the inspection reports. If they have never done it before, then you set expectations on, hey, the inspection report can be scary. It's really thorough. Everything's in the first section, plus you have just the defects in the second section, so it makes it like 100 pages. So when you see that, don't freak out. And then the next thing I typically say is there's really nothing I found here that is of really great concern to me that can't really be fixed.
Right.
Because ultimately, like, I have a builder background. I know that it can be fixed. At that point, their guard comes down. Even if I bring up like, hey, I saw this pier that is leaning. I've already said, hey, there's nothing that in here that can't be fixed. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Because it's really not. I mean, it may cost the seller a couple $1,000s to fix with an engineer letter or whatever, depending on how it needs to get fixed. But
Right.
ultimately, it's really not that big of a deal.
No.
So that's kind of how I started off.
I learned that the first house I bought for my personal property, it was a HUD home, and I got it. They were doing this program back in 2015, where and they still do it. If you're buying a HUD home and you're using an FHA 203K renovation deal, it's $100 down payment. I actually walked away from the purchase with money in hand because I was working in mortgage at the time. I was probably like 23 or 24. So I understood if I put the interest rate up just a little bit, and back then interest rates were way lower than they are now. So I was like at a 3.5%, maybe
Nice.
close to a 4%. But if I had the interest rate up just a little bit, I would get credit for my closing cost. Plus I got credit for doing the HUD, like it was HUD waived the closing costs. I don't remember the exact details. Plus, it was only a $100 down payment, so I actually got a check for like $1,500 at closing. Well, I moved into the house, and like there's no doors on it, but the inspection came up. There were structural issues. So that was a scary word for somebody who's a first-time home buyer. We had actually, Ben and I, you met Ben earlier, we actually had bought a rental property prior to me buying a primary residence. So we did own that, but it was a townhome up in Cornelius that was brand new, and we got an inspection and stuff done on it, and there was like nothing wrong. But I tell this story all the time to the guests. The first week we bought it, we have property manager, Nick Amini, rest in peace. He ended up passing away from cancer. Great guy and super sad story, but he got it under leased out, right? And we're sitting at, and we worked at Quicken Loans, which is Rocket Mortgage now. Ben and I were actually college roommates, and that's kind of how we've been together ever since. He follows me, and he's probably watching this right now. Ben, it's okay. I love you, buddy. Keep following me. But so we're sitting there, and Ben comes over. He's like, I think our house is on fire. I was like, what? And we had just gotten the lease agreement signed. and they had these TVs in the corner of, like, it was this huge space. They're still at the same location, 6135 Park South, over in South End, or not South End, over by the South Park Mall, South Park. And I look up, and there's like a helicopter flying over this big fire in Cornelius, and it was our townhome.
Oh no!
But it was the townhome that's attached to it, and they had the firewalls in,
Yeah.
which work. By the way, if they
Yes,
say
they do.
there's firewalls, or if you're building something and you're trying to turn a 1 unit into a 2 unit, put a firewall in.
Yeah.
Know from experience. So the guy who lived next door, this is still coming out of that 2008. It's like 2013 maybe. And so things weren't like, they didn't pick up right away. I think people forget that. It took a little while. Like, it was hard for us to find. We were graduated in 2011, 2012. It was hard for us to find jobs.
Yeah.
Because nobody was hiring. I worked at a restaurant like my first 8 months out of school, and I had a business degree that cost way too much money. So we, so it ends up, the guy was trying to sell his motorcycle. Nobody was buying it. So he took his dog and his family. He went grocery shopping, left the car charger, battery charger, hooked up to the battery of the motorcycle, was gone for hours, and it blew up and started a fire. And so there's a big investigation into it. I'm pretty sure he committed insurance fraud. I don't know what the outcome of what it was, but it, like, the flames were ripping out the roof on his side. All we had was smoke and water damage. Thankfully, right before that, we had gotten the lease signed. So we got insurance claim for loss of income because the guy ended up moving into a different property who's going to move in. We got a lady by the name of Kim in. She moved into the property. She lived there 2 years. We ended up selling it for a pretty good profit because things in Charlotte had started going, and this was like right over by the lake up Lake Norman. So, but looking back on it, we should probably kept it. But we were young and dumb.
Never know.
And
Hindsight's 2020.
but yeah, so the inspection definitely wouldn't have helped us with that. But I forget what we were getting at. Firewalls definitely worked, but that was our first investment property. But going back to my first home, you mentioned that everything that you see, can be fixed because you have a general contracting license and you built homes. Well, everyone's like, oh, structural damage. Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no. Well, I'm getting a renovation loan anyways, right? So primary residence, FHA renovation. This was my first house hack. I moved people into the other 2 rooms, rented it out.
Nice.
I lived in the master bedroom, but the first night I slept there was no doors on the house. But there was structural damage that needed to be taken care of, and I was just excited. I bought my first house that was mine. It wasn't like an investment property of Ben and I. It was my house. So they came in and they put 19 helical piers, and then back at that time it was only $19,000. And that house could get hit by a tornado, and it will not go anywhere now.
You know,
$50,000.
I had a
now.
client
It's
that
expensive
walked
now.
away from a house that had helical piers under it, and they had the structural engineer letter. And I was like, "This is great." I even said, "Like, man, I mean, you've had some issues, but like, you have helical piers under here. Your house is not going anywhere." And they were scared of it and walked away. They did
Helical
it.
piers are drilled into the
It's-
core of
Oh
the
my
earth.
gosh!
Like,
Yeah,
But
to the core.
but they are a little intimidating when you open the house and you look under there. You're like, why is this here?
Well, this was on a slab, so there was nothing to be seen. So it was literally covered up. All they had was a letter, and it's a lifetime warranty.
Yeah,
Well,
we had the same letter. They forgot. We had to get an engineer letter. This was fun when I was going to sell the house. We forgot to. I didn't know this because I was brand new into doing this type of thing at the time. You have to close out the permits, or you have
Yes,
to
you
have
do.
an engineer letter that's stamped saying it's good. Well, fast forward 5 years later, and I'm selling the house
Oh, no.
and under contract. It was so hard to get those permits closed out because they just
Code changed.
yes. So it was. I ended up having to call another engineer out. They had to dig down and see the helical pier.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, it was worth it. Made it because
Sure.
this is in South End. Before South End blew up. Well, when I'm selling it, South End had blown up. It was actually 2019, and we closed in October. We were supposed to close in August, but it was a 2-month delay getting those closed out. But we
Yeah.
got it. We ended up being able to get a signed and stamped engineer letter. The person was comfortable with it. He still lives there. He actually called me the other day about. I guess he was he never changed the phone number on the water, so that they were calling. Weird, like 5 years later. So I was like, "Oh, hey, how's the house? It's good. Okay, awesome. Why didn't you change the phone number on the water bill?"
Oh my gosh. I had a client like that they called me and were like, why is my water heater not working and my furnace? I'm like, well, I mean, did you go check the gas? You know, is it shut
Pilot
off or
light
whatever?
on.
Went out to the gas meter, locked out. I'm like, oh, I guess you didn't listen to your realtor that told you to
Switch
switch
over.
your utilities. You know, there's a lot of documentation you get in the
Right.
purchase of a home, like, and all of it's important, especially those little checklists that people give you to say you need to do these things once you move in.
But you would think you would know that. Hey, you now own this. So.
Well, first-time home buyers, people don't understand. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. How many times do you get people that you've done inspections for calling you and like, this doesn't work? Why didn't you see this? Or
You know, actually, I'm really proud to say we don't get a lot of calls. And the reason for that, the only thing I can think of in doing this now 8 years, is that we take our time.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing that sets us apart. You can go on and get pricing on our website. We're very, very competitive with the rest of the market. The big thing that is hard to show on the website is that we take probably twice as long as a normal person or another company would. Like for a 2,000 to 3,000 square foot house, other companies are going to be in there an hour and a half or 2. We're going to be in there a minimum of 4 hours. You add a crawl space, maybe another 30 minutes. And so because we slow down and take our time, I never wanted to be a company where we just spit
Right.
them out. Because I know I've hired guys from other companies
Mm-hmm.
that they came and they're like, what do you mean only have 2 inspections today? Like they were 3 and 4 inspections in a day. Like one, it's really mentally taxing. I mean, you're
Right.
using all of your brain and focus for that amount of time that you're in a house. And to do that many inspections in one day is crazy to me. So,
Well, to do them correctly is the deal.
exactly. And
Right.
so that's the thing. So, some companies have third party warranties. Like, hey, you come with us, you're going to get a 90-day warranty. That's great. But I don't need to pay for that because nobody calls us
Right.
because we've already found all the things. And usually if we have a complaint, we could say, look at your report.
Right.
Like we mentioned this in the report. Did you call that HVAC company like we recommended? Well, no, but I literally had a guy tell me that my defect statement wasn't egregious enough for him to pay attention to, even though it's in red letters and it says recommend do this. Like he called and he was angry because there was some stuff wrong. He's like, this wasn't egregious enough for me to pay attention to. I'm like, I'm sorry, sir.
That's why I was wondering, how many times people have called you, because I am sure you get some asinine complaints if you do get them.
Sometimes, yeah.
And because one of the things I've realized is 80% of people could love you, and you could be perfect on those 80, and you could be perfect on the next 20%, but those 20% of people, it's almost like there's no accountability.
Yeah.
So they're looking to blame someone else. What's the craziest call you've ever gotten post-inspection?
It was actually last year. My inspector had documented that he could not get below the house. It was a really old home. The door was literally next to a sidewalk, and the door was basically subgrade,
Mm.
And to get in there, like I couldn't even get in there. He was a little bit bigger than me, but I could fit in the
A
space.
strong big, though,
Yeah,
right?
strong big. Yeah,
Strong
strong
big.
big. Yeah. The smallest opening I've been in is 11 inches.
Mm-mm.
And
Oh,
that was me like pushing all my air out and forcing myself through, like, going after a Twinkie,
Right.
her with a loop it
Right.
up. so yeah, when I went in there because I knew that it opened up a little bit when I
Right.
got in there. I wouldn't, but our standard is 18 inches. You don't have to go in there if it's 18 inches or less. And so anyway, we documented it in a couple of different areas. We walked with the client and the realtor. We showed them, hey, we can't get in here. And he called and filed a claim against our insurance because after closing, he actually had somebody get in there, HVAC company. They found all sorts of stuff. Even though there was other HVAC issues in the house, recommended an HVAC person come out. Anyway, that claim was frivolous. Never ended up going anywhere.
Insurance said no, thank you.
Yeah, well, yeah, they basically were like, hey, here's your contract. Here's the inspection report. It's been documented. It was recommended that you do this. You didn't. Denied.
Right.
It's not just like a insurance, hey, we're going to deny you first. Like, it's legitimately denied. Like,
Right.
you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And I think they ended up actually just closing it because he became non-communicative.
Mm-hmm. He knew.
He knew. I mean, he knew, but it's like, why file against my insurance? I mean, come on, man. I mean,
Right.
I understand you're upset, but we told you. So,
Yeah.
One of the things that I don't think that people understand, and we deal with this a lot, is we're a small business, and you're a small business as
Yeah.
well. It's not like we're this multi-billion-dollar corporation. So when you file against your insurance, right, what ends up happening is your insurance will go up, and that directly affects you and how you provide for your family. It
Yeah.
affects how many people you can employ,
Yeah.
how the less people that are employed is the less. I consider I've had other inspections done on the other properties, and the inspection I got back from you got most thorough. So that will affect other home buyers because maybe your insurance goes up, and it's like, man, we're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z anymore. So maybe less people get the benefit of your service. And I think that a lot of people at times will just be like, hey, I'm going to file insurance. They're a big organization. This is, Freedom Home Services. They're huge in this area. We're going to, boom, and don't realize the effect. And he was probably just taking a shot at the dark. But, I've seen your inspection reports, and there's, if it says to call an HVAC person, you should probably call an HVAC person. The person we bought our house from actually got annoyed because I went through and it said, call this person to check this, call this person to check that. And I did it. And I had, you spend an extra, it's $150 at the most for a service call for these people, like HVAC services and other different services. So you maybe spend $1,000 extra bucks on inspections, but you go in with the peace of mind knowing like, hey, nothing bad is going to happen. This is going to be a good investment, especially in this area because everything's rising. I'm not going to have to dump $30,000 into this house within the first month.
yeah.
So
That's a big thing. Like, you want to be able to know what to prioritize.
Right.
Like, hey, my HVAC's on the fritz. Wasn't able to get the thing fired up. Well, that's probably something I should fix before I
Right.
go in. But all these other little things, it's a honey-do list for once you get in the house.
Right,
So
right.
it's
Yeah, well,
really good. I'm glad you did that.
Oh yeah, I'm.
Thanks for following our directions.
I'm OCD with that kind of thing.
We ran into that at the River Hills property that we currently own now. Is we knew that we got it for a steal, but he's like, "Oh yeah, everything works great, everything will be fine." I was like, So I, instead of calling an inspection company, I asked for a second showing, and I said I'm going to need an hour and a half for the second showing, and I went in there with my coveralls and I crawled the entire home, and I actually took a contractor with me. And because they were, the biggest thing on the report was water damage everywhere. So that's why nobody would move on that house. And every HVAC unit was out, and it was 4 of them. So I crawled under the house. I hit my light, and my buddy's like, "Man, that's not water damage, dude." And so I gave the price that I thought the house was worth, and they were like, "Oh no, there's no way we're doing this." And I said, "Cool." I walked. And I don't know, 10 days later, yeah, we'll take it. So that's, when
Nice.
Ben looked at it, we were looking at doing a HELOC to fix a lot of the stuff, like, just do a reno of it. He's like, "How'd you get the house so cheap?" I was like, "Well, I did my due diligence and crawled under it and, basically did what I needed to do."
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it's, a lot of people don't do that, though. A lot of people just go, they take the word and they run with it.
Right.
And it's that trust factor. And that, to me, Matt, that's where you fit in. I think that's why your business is booming the way it is because you do have a trust factor and you do make people feel good. And what you say is truthful. And it's hard to find that anymore. So kudos to you, my brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I was just in River Hills last week, actually.
Oh, nice.
Bless you.
Working on my working with my contractor license.
Cool.
4 days in a crawl space. It was like 18 to 20 inches.
Oh, spelunking, basically.
Yeah. Well, I told them, I said, I'm not going in there until you get all the insulation ripped out and new vapor barrier. And they did, and they kind of scrubbed the truss or the floor joists, and went in and replaced a bunch of they had a lot of joists and even a girder that had, because of moisture over time, they had literally like started to crack, and they were brittle along the bottom edges and deteriorating. And so we went in and replaced or scabbed on a bunch. So
River Hills has older homes, beautiful homes, but older homes.
It's a great community.
It's awesome. I love it. I live there as well. Mike lives there. Ben lives there. It is an older community, but you still have like that. They're cool homes, but you know you're getting into something when you go there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you were there with your general contracting license. You still do home projects as well?
Yep. We actually, 2020 was a great year for us. Best year ever. Grew like 110%. And
nice.
It's just been going down and down and down and down. And a couple of years ago, I said, I'm going to stay in business. I need to start doing something else, especially during the wintertime, because people are just buying less.
Right.
And so I've reached out again to realtor contacts and was like, hey, by the way, I got my contractor's license. And it was really just to help with seller lists.
Right.
From other inspection companies. We cannot do work on our own houses that we inspect. It's totally just
can't do it.
Yes. So we got a referral from another inspection company, and we went out and checked it out, and I bid on it and got it. So it was a good week of work. It was a hard week, but it's kind of more fill-in work because, like I said, we only do 1 or 2 inspections, and I'm okay with that. But if you do a 5 or 6 hour inspection, you have a couple of hours maybe where you or your inspector might want some work. And so I can say, hey, we can go and, do this little thing, fix this little leak under the sink,
right?
Make a couple bucks. It's stuff that most people won't do. And so South Carolina changed their law actually a couple of years ago for the residential builder license, because I'm not licensed to do commercial.
Okay.
And previously, I could only do up to $5,000 in work in any category.
Right.
Before I subbed it out. Now I can do unlimited.
Oh, cool.
So I can do all in-house. Now I know my limits, so I've got great partners I can call on plumbing and electrical HVAC. And so when I have stuff that's out of my category or out of my skill set, I sub it out.
So Freedom Home Services, great name, because it's not, you're doing more than just inspections.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. It is technically a separate company. It's Freedom Contracting, but you go to the website or call us. We'll point you in the right direction. Either
Perfect.
way. Yeah.
Perfect. So you left your last company.
Yep.
You didn't want to be an inspector because you hated them at the time.
Yep.
Maybe not hated. Maybe that's a strong word. Extreme dislike.
Extreme dislike.
Extreme dislike for inspectors. Came in, you wanted to do things a little bit differently so that you didn't break the trust of whether it's a builder or a realtor or you didn't want to break that trust because that you, as you know, it's hard to get that trust, and then you want to keep it.
Yeah.
I brought you on the podcast, or one, because I know that you do great work, but number two, I saw a post, and I think a lot of people need to look into this a little bit more. You did a blog on it as well. New builds, because we have an inventory shortage in the country. That's why you see the interest rates high, but the housing price is staying pretty up there. It's not coming back down, which, here we've been telling people on this podcast for years. There's an inventory issue, supply and demand. It's not going to come back down. The only thing that it might do is stop rising as fast because interest rates went up, which is kind of, we were spot on that. But now what you're seeing is there's a lot of land development, home builds, things of that nature, right? So people are moving into these newly built homes, and some people are just foregoing inspections altogether. Oh, it's brand new build, no big deal. Terrible idea. Some people, are expecting there to be no issues with the home. So yeah, I saw your blog post. I saw I think it was LinkedIn actually, where I saw the original post. I'm on LinkedIn a lot more. And you were talking about how when you go in to new builds, some of the stuff you find in there is just, it's pretty big misses, and the homeowner should want to get an inspection. Talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you found in new home builds, your thought process on it, and the importance of an inspection still on new construction. And then I have a few follow-up questions to that.
Yeah. So before I get into that, my background as a builder, I know what it's like to build and what it's like to be working for a national builder, more local builders.
Right.
But I also know that builders have an inordinate amount of work on their shoulders. Typically, you have a community like the one you're talking about,
2,600.
They may have like 3 or 4 guys in there,
Right.
maybe, if you're lucky.
And they're building that in less than 5 years.
Yeah. So when I would, at one point, actually at a couple different points, when I was a builder, I was running 35 houses in 4 different communities.
Wow.
In 2 different code jurisdictions. And one of the communities was an hour drive.
It's almost impossible to do that.
It literally is impossible in an 8-hour day, which wasn't an 8-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
You're salaried, no overtime.
Mm-hmm.
I never got to every house. And so I'm a good builder. But what is my workload like? I will get the question very frequently, which builder do you recommend that I go with? I don't know. They're all the same. They all have the same subs, but let me see who the superintendent is. Do they have experience? How many houses are they running at the same time? I can tell you what kind of a quality of a build you're going to get. But regardless of their workload, they still have more than one house to look at.
Right.
So even if you're building a custom house, there was a custom house I did inspection on a few years ago. It was the most broken trusses I've ever found in any house.
Explain what the broken truss is for all of my real estate people.
Yeah, so trusses are an engineered product. They're built in a factory. You probably are trying to dodge the trucks as they're going down the road.
Right.
But they hold up the roof system, and they're varying configurations, and they're held together with what they call metal gusset plates.
Mm-hmm.
The process of transporting those, offloading them, picking them up with a crane, so on and so forth, they get broken.
Must have been windy.
Yeah. A lot. Like, the majority of houses will have at least one truss defect, at least. This one had 26.
A majority of new builds or a majority of houses in general, or
New builds or homes that haven't been inspected, because I can inspect a house that's 5 years old that didn't get an inspection, and I'll find stuff that was broken at, when it was built.
So for like a 2,500 square foot house, how many trusses are actually in the house?
Oh, that's a good question. I really don't know how to answer that. Because it depends on the configuration. Like, is it a hip style? What's a roof structure look like?
Let's just do a pointed roof.
30 to 50.
30 to 50.
Yeah.
So at least one of them's broken, which can probably compromise the structure of your roof.
It can eventually. I always tell people, again, like, everything can be fixed. One broken truss, not that big of a deal. It still needs to be fixed. It's a structural issue, but
how many did you say that were broken in this house?
26.
Out of how many?
Oh, there were a lot. It was more I guess it was a boxier shape. I think it was still like 5,800 square feet, but it was a custom house.
So like rough guesstimate 100 trusses?
Yeah, that's probably, yeah.
So if 26 were broken.
Yeah, it's a lot. They're all over the place.
So would the roof have caved in?
So not necessarily, no. Unless you had a bunch that were like right next to each other.
Right.
There was one new build I did over in the Palisades area. I don't like to throw builders under the bus because they're all the same, right? So
Palisades is River Hills' rival, so let's trash them.
Oh no.
That's from a golf standpoint, though. We have the private course, and they're only semi-private. So,
gotcha.
And we're a gated community.
Gotcha. Yeah, you are gated. Thank you very much for not allowing me to use your back gate. That is super convenient.
I accidentally drove through the back gate when my wife got her new car. I thought she had to
literally through
it. So she gets in her new SUV. I thought it had the sticker on it. and I just, I did the roll. And usually, like in my truck, I can just roll right on through. Well, we hadn't gotten a sticker, so I rolled on through.
You rolled on through, all right.
You would be surprised at how I was going 2 miles per hour, and that thing flew off.
Oh,
You would
yeah.
have thought it was like an episode of like a Prison Break or
That's
something.
hilarious.
Yeah,
And
but
so,
you're probably not the first person to do that.
no, it's all dented. So I went back around to the front, and they're like, "Good thing you came up here and told us you did it. We saw you on camera. We were going to come and find you." I was like, "Do you think I was just going to run the thing over and go to my house? I live right in the neighborhood."
They're pretty hardcore.
So, yeah. So going back to the trusses, and the
Yes,
reason I'm
yeah.
asking, and these might be rudimentary questions, but a lot of people don't realize that, okay, you can have 26 out of 100 or 70 broken trusses,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean your roof's going to collapse.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of trusses, and this is a custom build. How'd the customer take that news?
So disappointed. But again, I try to say, hey, I don't throw the builder under the bus. That's part of what we do.
Right.
I'll be on the builder's side if the builder is speaking truth
Right.
and the client is being crazy. I'll be like, he's telling you the truth. I've had to do that.
Yeah, it's doing the right thing.
Yeah. But if the builder is blowing smoke, I'm be like, that's not right, dude. I don't care that you passed your code inspection. Code enforcement is not a structural engineer.
Right.
Just because they didn't catch it doesn't mean that you're not required to fix it.
Have
And
you
so-
run into builders doing that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been thrown out of communities
Because you've
because
got
I've
thrown
caught
out,
stuff, and
and they lied about it.
so they didn't necessarily lie about it. The
They
the
just-
latest instance was there was a builder that we did the pre-drywall inspection,
Mm-hmm.
and we found quite a few things. They actually had the plans, and we looked at that, found a lot of planned deficiencies, several broken trusses. When I walked on site, the first thing the superintendent said was, "We're putting insulation in 2 days." I'm like, okay, well,
Which means you can't inspect like you need
no,
to.
which
No.
he was like,
He's got to
we've
wait
already-
on him to give him the go ahead to do it, right?
No, we've already passed our code
Oh, okay.
inspections.
Got it.
So, I mean, we'll look at your list, but we've already passed our code inspections. We're insulating in 2 days, which is basically like, I don't care that you're here. You can do your job.
It's
but
an FU essentially.
basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I found that, and I told the client, hey, let me know if there's any issues. Hopefully he'll see the report and fix the issues. No big deal. Try to give them the benefit of the doubt. Well, unfortunately, this guy didn't, and he said, no, we're insulating. This isn't an issue. And all I request in pre-drywall inspections is, hey, verify it with the architect or engineer that drew the plans, and put it in writing. Like, transfer the liability from you to somebody else, so that in the future, if you have issues, you can get stuff corrected.
CYA.
Exactly. So anyway, this client called me and she said, they're not doing anything. Like, they said that you're wrong, and like, this is for a different set of plans and elevation. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, get it in writing. No, they're not going to do it. I said, okay, well, I'd recommend that you call the building code official. I gave her his number, and they called, and they shut the job down. She shared the report. That, of course, pissed them off. And I got a call from the VP of construction for that company.
Was it
and,
national?
Uh,
One of the big boys.
Eastern Seaboard,
Pretty big though.
See,
pretty big.
See, I would call that, when you're in the home building, there's custom,
Mm-hmm.
real custom,
Mm-hmm.
and then we call that semi-custom.
Semi-custom. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of those trusts that are coming in are semi-custom, and then when you build custom, it's all stick-built, so you don't really run into that very often.
Yeah. Yeah. Stick built.
So,
Yeah.
but you don't see that anymore. That art is gone. It's how fast can we throw it up? How fast can we build it? And
Yeah.
then that's half the problem why you run into 26 trusts being broken, and they don't care too. So
They don't. They're like, oh, put a Band-Aid here, it won't move. Whatever.
So the job site that
Yeah.
you were thrown off of, they're not allowed back into that
Yeah.
that project.
That VP said I couldn't go on any of their properties, which is not proven to be true because I've still done some. But Anyway,
Why would I guess what my question is why would the VP of a company that's semi-national, Eastern Seaboard, that does home builds, why would they want you thrown off? You found a defect that could have come back and gotten them sued and lost a ton of money. So it's not just that you're protecting the buyer, your customer, but you're also protecting. You're also protecting them from getting sued down the line, because if you fix it now and you can document it, you fixed it, then our favorite saying today, CYA, cover your ass.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, though, that they sent one of their inspectors out, and he came back and said it's fine. And then, I mean, because that's how the building industry works. It's never their fault. It's always somebody else's.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, I don't know that this guy did. In fact, he just basically was like, it's for a different elevation. And I said, okay, well, I mean, there are no other elevations in these sets of plans. And, you know, if I'm wrong, I'm okay with that. Just put it in writing and say that this isn't required according to the plans, and, you know, we're good.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's about the customer, dude. It's not even about you.
Yeah, and my report and my rapport with the client and with the builder, if they'll allow it, because some, like this guy was like, you know, whatever.
Tell me I don't know how to do my job.
Yeah, like I'm not there to throw you under the bus, but to answer your question, it goes back to my original statement. I hated home inspectors.
Right.
And there's this industry-wide disdain for home inspectors. And it really comes down to how a home inspector is trained. So you can be a computer engineer, no offense to computer engineers, and be really good at test taking and go and get your home inspection license. So when you're researching home inspectors, what's the background? Like, do they have experience? Well, I'm really detailed, you know, when I was doing computer engineering. That's nice, but do you really even know what a Durapex is?
Right.
You know, could I tell you to go get a board stretcher? Would you go try to find it? You know? You know?
Probably.
Yeah.
Got him.
So, that's my theory.
Right.
I don't have really any way to back that up, but I'm not done with that company yet. I'm actually want to write to the head of construction down in Florida and say, hey, this happened. Why is this happening? Like, you can see my report. Why did this transaction happen this way? Why? And this company actually limits our inspections a lot. When we get a call to do an inspection on this company, I say, unless it's pre-drywall, because I can still get in and kind of see, they will not let you climb the trusses. They will not let you open the panel, the electrical panel. They will not let you do much of anything that actually you're required to do. And so I recommend post-closing to have us come in. So I actually did one recently, and I found the second most amount of broken trusses on this particular house.
So were the 26 broken trusses the same as same company, different companies?
This lady had 24.
Same company, though.
Different company.
First one was a custom builder.
Got it.
This one was the semi-custom.
Got it.
I did one recently that I may end up being a what do you call it? A witness. A law, like a subject matter witness.
Is it a lawsuit?
They're working on it.
Will be.
And it's for the builder I was talking about, but a different community. But I went in and inspected theirs post-closing.
The one in Florida that you're going to write to.
Yeah.
You know what we can do? We can get both y'all on the podcast, and I'll be
awesome.
the intermediary, because it doesn't make any sense.
That would be awesome. It doesn't. But my theory is it's all because inspectors don't have the training. So to be licensed in North or South Carolina, you don't have to do any additional training to go and inspect a house at pre-drywall. If you call us, we are proudly the most expensive pre-drywall inspection company that you're going to find in the area. If we're not, I want to know about it, because I'm going to raise my prices. But again, we spend it starts at 4 hours.
Right.
At a house, 1,500 square feet, 4 hours.
Okay.
Like more than that, I mean 6-8 hours. Like, that's not unheard of for me to be on a house all day doing these pre-drywall inspections. Because, again, liability. I have a lot. Like, I'm looking at a lot. I literally I walk around and around and around the second floor, looking at the plans, hopefully.
Why do you say hopefully? Do they not give you the plans all the time?
They hate to give you the plans, typically.
Why? I don't understand.
They're proprietary. Well, I'm not taking them off the property, bro. Like,
I'm not going to go build the house.
I'm not going to build that. I just want to make sure that everything's
sign
there.
an NDA. That's so simple. Okay, you're going to do the inspection. You want the plans, sign this document. You can use this for your inspection, but you cannot use this to build another house. And if you do, and we find out about it, we're going to sue you. And we're more than likely a big company.
That's a good thought. I will actually try that next time somebody does that. But what we do, or my office manager does, Danny, she's great. Shout out to Danny. Hey, what's up?
We're live right now. She's probably watching.
She probably is not. She doesn't care about it. It's fine. We research the properties. So if we can get a copy of the permits, we actually will do a public records request. South Carolina is great for public records requests. You can get a digital copy of the building plans. And so we'll go in there. I'm like, with my iPad, it's awesome. I can zoom in. Sweet. North Carolina, however, you don't even have to have a plan review. It's not required by the state. When you pull a permit, you don't have to have a plan review. And
explain that, because I don't understand it, and I know that there's people that might do business with us that aren't understanding the difference between having a plan review and that.
Yeah. So you have your blueprints, your building plans. South Carolina, you have to take those plans and give them to the building code office. Larger builders, they typically provide, like, this is one house with 4 different elevations. You know, somebody will look that has knowledge in that area. They will look at the plans and they will stamp them or sign off on them.
Okay.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg, I believe, does have a plan review process, but there are a lot of other jurisdictions in the area that do not in North Carolina because it's not actually a requirement. It's up to the jurisdiction. So when we call North Carolina or we do an online public records request, they say we don't have those because we didn't do a plan review. So if you want to know why you should do a pre-drywall inspection, there's a great answer right there. The plans haven't been looked at by a third party. Of course, maybe they're probably engineered, right? But they haven't been looked at by the code enforcement officials in their offices. Not only that, I know for a fact that the majority of code enforcement officials, they're all good people. They don't have the time. They have even more on their plate than I do. As a builder, or as a former builder, I had one guy tell me, I was just, hey, how's your day going? Oh, pretty good, man. I got like 45 more to do, though. So
how are you getting 45 done?
He's not. He said, I can't get to all those. I'm not going to get to all of them, so we'll push them off to the next day. That's why they give you like 24 to 72 hours window when you call an inspection in. And because it could be like, I'm doing a framing inspection, or I could be doing hey, they just did a HVAC replacement. And so not only are they not looking at them in the office, they don't have time to look at them in the field. I've been on multiple inspections now that I've been doing them, pre-drywalls, inspector in and out, 5 minutes.
And they go, those are the good ones.
In and out in 5 minutes.
Yeah. I personally had an inspector, again, I'm not going to name counties because I've built in a lot of jurisdictions in this area, which has been great.
You're extremely professional with that because I'd be throwing darts.
Yeah, no, because it really doesn't do any good.
No, it doesn't, because it gives you it'll give you a bad name, hard to work with. I understand completely, and you shouldn't. And I'm just kind of joking around with that, but
no, I had a code enforcement official pass my insulation inspection from his truck in the rain. Never got in the house. My entire second floor of that particular house didn't have insulation. The insulator didn't bring the right amount. Here you go. You're passed. Insulation, good to go.
Don't even have it in there.
Could have put sheetrock up. No big deal. We found houses that are completed with no insulation in the attic.
That's insane.
Yeah. And they've been CO'd. Like that's a certificate of occupancy.
Yes, we call it CO, certificate of occupancy, certificate of completion.
Yeah.
And these are new builds.
So
and
it's a system problem. It's not a people problem. Well, there's
the government has their hand in it, though, right? With the code enforcement.
Yeah. So like with really anything in government, having something private is a great thing to do. So like you've got the United States Postal Service, and then you have FedEx, UPS, right? So like you have a kind of public, you have your government agency, then you have your private agencies, So you have code enforcement and you have home inspections. I'm actually meeting with the South Carolina State Senator next month to talk about this one thing, to try to get these things changed, because
I'm
Well, how do you pass the HERDS test if you have zero insulation in the attic?
So that's more of a blower door test.
Right.
How much air is coming into a house from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily based on insulation.
I was just wondering if there would not be a ton coming out of the attic.
No, because they seal up all the vents.
They
put a piece of plastic over like the attic access door, and so they want to make sure that any air that's being pulled is actually being pulled from the outside, which does not include the attic or the crawl space. So
seems pointless.
Yeah, they don't really that HERS inspection, HERS, which I can't remember what it stands for, but it doesn't really cover insulation at all.
Wow.
So it's really more about air loss in a house.
Got it.
Mm-mm. So I'm big on the it sounds like code enforcement and who go out and see and make sure that certain things are up to code that are typically working for government agencies. They might be overwhelmed. They have too much on their plate. This is why I'm a big believer in less government, because that's part of government and that's part of something the taxpayer is paying for, but it's not really protecting the taxpayer who's paying for it, because if you go and have a remodel done on your house, they have 45 houses and they aren't even getting out of the car in certain instances to make sure that the insulation's installed. This is why I believe in capitalism, and I talked about entrepreneurship and in America and the things that we can do here that are greater and why we're the greatest country in the world. Part of it is because of capitalism, and capitalism would say if you had a company doing that's a private company, they would fail. But Freedom Home Services, because you do such a thorough job, you're going to succeed. Well, if people are relying on, first off, we shouldn't have to pay our taxes to code enforcement if the code enforcement isn't actually enforcing the code. It's raining, so you can't get out of the truck. Okay, sounds like a government worker. No offense, government workers, but it's just like you run into that.
So many stories.
Oh man, it's like if you want a perfect example of government at work, just go into the DMV.
Oh yeah.
Just don't get me started, but I'll go on an hour-long rant about why we're doing things the wrong way and why we need to be more private. So you said you had a conversation coming up with a state senator about. Yeah. What is your focus of that conversation going to be, and what are you trying to get accomplished there?
Yeah, I met him at a networking event, and happened to find out, I guess he's on a committee that has to do with the building codes or building construction, and just like, I would love to talk to you, and kind of just brief 5-minute conversation. Basically, kind of told him what I was telling you, code enforcement is understaffed; they can't get to it. Home inspections are not required, unfortunately, by insurance companies, by mortgage companies. They're just not required. And he was like, I didn't really realize that, which a lot of people are saying. I don't know why people assumed that a home inspection was required. I wish it were. Obviously, that'd be great for me financially, but I would like to just see better built houses. And if you have better built houses, you're going to have less issues later down the line. So
I think the issue you're going to run into too is, I keep going back to, we have a housing shortage. We have a builder shortage post 2008, just kind of running down the history. Yeah. Post 2008, a lot of the builders got out of the market, especially the ones who were putting up the big neighborhoods and such, because they got beat over the head a little bit in that there was a lot of foreclosure. There's a lot that went into that. They took some blame on some stuff that maybe they shouldn't have. So they got out of it because the profit wasn't necessarily there, and there was a lot of restriction going in that was making it much harder. It reduced the margins big time. So a lot of them went into custom builds where they had bigger margins, and they started doing that. But there's a bunch of reasons why. There was forest fires that burnt up inventory, COVID. You had the supply chain issues during COVID.
Yep.
You have a bunch of people coming across the border that need places to live. So there's this massive housing shortage. And I think what you're going to
snow in Texas.
snow in Texas.
The ice So the glue plant shutting down.
100. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
So many things all at the same time.
It all happened at the same time, which contributed to the shortage. And then now you're having, I call it migration in the United States to different areas. So certain areas are having even more of a shortage, like the Southeast. Like 50% of all the homes built are going to be in the Southeast because people are moving to the Southeast, and Texas is included in that, I think, even though it's like Southwest. But the issue I think that you may run into with this is these big national builders have this thing called lobbyist, right? So they are going to lobby, and I think I believe going to the state center is a smart way because it's going to have to be a state-by-state thing because it's going to be hard to get past anything on the national level saying we require home inspections. The best place to start, in my opinion, yes, state center is great. Mortgage companies and insurance companies. Yeah. These are private companies. Does an insurance company not want an inspection done? And then, hey, that house that has 26 trusses out, the roof collapses and maybe it kills somebody, and now the insurance is having to pay all this money, but do they care? I don't know. But say, hey, in order to have this insurance, we require this inspection.
Yeah.
This would also, here's the great thing about capitalism and building wealth through real estate. This would help people build wealth through real estate because if you have less insurance claims because you have a great inspection done prior to you moving into the home, then there's going to be less claims paid out. And in theory, it should drive the price of insurance down.
Yeah.
So,
well, even when it comes to new construction, because I've done warranty and building, right, and I helped run the warranty department, I know that there is a certain dollar amount that is put into each house that the builder just assumes that we're going to have to pay in warranty claims.
That's
especially in semi-custom.
Yeah. So why not invest that money, which is going to be significantly less, in getting a private inspection company? And some builders actually do have third-party inspectors.
I believe in third-party inspections for third-party audits.
I've been into houses and inspected homes after those third-party inspectors, and they still miss stuff.
Right.
Because once again, they're like, well, I'm in the same house. I kind of know where things are. I don't really need to look at the plans. Whatever. I'm only going to be there for 30 minutes looking at the framing. Well, again, it's not enough time. No. So I don't really know where I was going with that point, but
you were saying that.
Well, they're going to miss, the third party people are going to miss things.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to miss something, but I think you were going to have a third party inspector in.
Yeah.
Because
you're going to save a bunch of money.
It's going to reduce their cost. They can even sell the house for the same price with the reduced cost.
Yeah. If nothing else, you can go back and say there was a third party inspection done. Like, we didn't see anything on this. The inspector didn't show that we had this issue. Like, that truss issue didn't exist.
Right.
Subpoena all the pictures that are taken, whatever. I mean, like, there's so much benefit for everybody involved to have a private inspection done.
100%. And, hopefully that the state center that you're speaking with gets an understanding of, why this is important and how it will protect people. I'm not one who ever says, hey, more government, but if you have this code enforcement section, you can actually do away with a portion of government, and maybe we can balance our books at that point.
Well, yeah, but even if you said, hey, there's a government requirement that on a new home construction purchase that you have a pre-drywall and a pre-closing inspection.
Boom.
So
tell the difference between pre-drywall versus pre-closing.
So a lot of people call them phase inspections as well. So typically people only do the pre-drywall, which means that the foundation's built, the framing is built, rough electrical, mechanical, and plumbing is in. And by rough, I mean there's no power, there's no water, there's no HVAC. It's just the ductwork, the wiring, the pipes.
We call that dried in.
Yes. Yeah. We call it roughed in, dried in, all that stuff. It's all there. and that's pre-drywall. It's before insulation's installed, and so you can see almost everything. And you can see another trade that may have cut through somebody else's work, which we see a lot. Oh, this stud's in the way. You know, I'm going to take this thing out to get my thing in.
And
Well,
not
they didn't
fix it.
Well, and I mean, just tell somebody.
Right.
Come on, like we're all on the same team. Or get the framer that's probably right next door anyway, and have him come over and nail the stud back, or what, you know. Anyway, I digress. There's so many so many things. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's
It's a lot.
So
it's a lot.
Post close
Yeah.
or pre close. I
Yeah.
mean, explain what pre close is.
Yeah, pre-close is if you do basically pre-closing. So your normal inspection with your builder or your walkthrough is going to be a week to 2 weeks in advance of closing. That's typically when we would come in and we would test all the things. All the utilities are on at that point. Everything should be done, cleaned. We can see everything. We can test everything. We're not there to like pick out cosmetic stuff.
Right.
You know, although we do an upcharge fee for something like that if they want us to do like a blue tape inspection, but it typically is just functionality.
Is this pre-CO?
Typically, it depends on the build cycle. If we're there 2 to 3 weeks in advance, they probably don't have the CO yet.
Right.
If we're there in a week in advance, they probably already have the CO. But I mean, when I was building, sometimes we were running right up to the closing date to try to get the CO.
Typically, we get the CO when we're trying to close. It's like 2 to 3 days before we close.
Yeah, it's
So inspections are
they've
usually
changed that
done.
again. Like you can get a CO now, pretty early on because they pass your inspections before you even have power onto the house in some jurisdictions.
That
They
went back.
can't do that in the jurisdictions I've worked in.
Well, see, all that went back to when the freeze hit Texas because you couldn't. You think about the glue companies, the paint companies, everybody who was the biggest thing was garage doors. You couldn't get a garage door. I don't care if you'd have to make your own garage door. So, in order to pass your CO, you got to have a garage door. Well, they just started passing without them because you couldn't get them.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that is kind of, everything rolls downhill.
Yeah.
So I think that's
That's why
just
we
some
need
of that.
onshoring.
So, kind of going back to phase inspections because I lost my train of thought. If you didn't notice,
It happens.
We all have ADD in here.
Yeah. So, some clients will, especially if they're out of town, we've gone in at different phases of construction to do inspections. So, the county does do or the code enforcement does do like footing inspections, but you can also have us go out there and look too. I'm getting actually ready to do what's called an open floor inspection. So this client is actually hiring us for phase inspections. And so we're going to go out. It's on a crawl space. And it's basically the foundation has been built, which is makes up the crawl space area. And the floor joists have been put in. There's no floor decking. Nothing else is built. So what code enforcement does, it's called an open floor. You don't have to go around crawling around. You can typically see stuff looking down. But again, I find stuff that's missing all the time because they don't get on their hands and knees and crawl. Did you know, just quick sidebar, nobody actually looks at a roof.
Really?
Code enforcement isn't allowed to get on a roof.
Yeah, they drop.
Builder is not allowed to look at a roof. You know how many roof defects I find on new construction house? 99% of houses have nail holes in the roof from where the scaffolding was nailed into the top of the shingles. And they just took it out from when the siding was installed, and that's it. There are multiple areas where shingles are missing, or even siding is missing. You know how you have those weird roof lines that kind of one goes this way, one kind of comes this way, and you have this little section of siding that you can't see from the ground. Missing siding, missing house wrap. Just we do drone inspections.
So you do roofs?
Yeah,
Missed a lot of flashing too.
Yeah, we'll get on the roof if it's safe to do so, but we pride ourselves in doing drone inspections. Our drones are awesome.
That's
They're
awesome.
very tiny, and we can see basically everything. I can be
Bringing technology into
yeah,
home
I
inspection.
can be
Hell yeah.
10 to 20 feet above a house, and I can zoom in. I can see nail holes in a roof.
That's cool.
And so, anyway, nobody looks at a roof. So, quick sidebar on that.
Well,
But,
that's
yeah.
great information.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of information we've gotten onto here. I have a few more questions that retain to.
sure, I'll try to be brief.
No, it doesn't matter. We can go as long as we need to. A couple of things. First and foremost, how many inspectors do you have working with you?
I currently only have one.
Okay.
Yeah, we've shrunk. I've tried to hire additional people. It's
Hard.
as you know, it's difficult to
Yeah.
find good people.
It is.
Yeah.
We had to. It's sad to say this, but we have a very good team. We're almost to 15. I
That's
think we're at
amazing.
15 employees,
Yeah.
and
We had 11 in 2020.
nice.
Yeah.
We went through 22 people to get to 15 though. So,
Yeah.
and some quit, some didn't
Yeah.
work out.
Yeah.
It's just different strokes for different folks, especially for a small business.
Yeah. It's tough because y'all have to have licenses. And so
yeah.
us too.
Mhm.
You help somebody get the license and they maybe want to go out and start things on their own. So we run into that too, which is fine. I'll help somebody go out and do their business. If you don't want to work for me, but entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
It's
So
not. It's there's a lot that goes into it.
there really is.
That people don't see. The
It's
other
not
question,
just getting a really nice truck and making a bunch of money. There's a
Well,
lot of stuff.
the not
I
making a
didn't pay
bunch of-
taxes the right way for the first couple of years, so I still have a Suburban that's had to depreciate fully to pay those taxes. So it's difficult.
we
Just don't know stuff.
one of the things I tell people all the time, it's like, you get the glitz and the glamour of entrepreneurship through YouTube channels, through Instagrams and stuff like that, but they don't see the amount of stress, the amount of time, the amount of hours. It's not, I'm going to work my own schedule. Okay, good luck, buddy. It's 100-hour weeks. I've told every person who's coming to this company, you're going to learn a lot, but there's no way you're going to learn everything. And if you want to go out on your own, I ask that you do it the right way.
Yeah.
Have a conversation. I'll help you in any way I can.
Yeah.
But understand, like if you say you're a top producing loan officer making a bunch of money, you're going to take your time and you have this much time and you're now going to have this much time to produce.
Yeah.
Like, because there's so much other stuff that goes into it, especially from
Really
a
is.
compliance standpoint.
Yeah. You're
and
working in it and you're working on it.
correct.
Yeah.
And then the other piece that I tell them is, there's just not even like the business portion, but you mentioned taxes, budgets. There's just so much that goes into it. Planning,
Employees, payroll.
and then yep, and then 100%. But if I have an investor and the investor's buying a property and they go down to the studs, should they do a pre-drywall inspection on a pre-existing home, or should they do pre-drywall inspections on just new builds?
Yeah. I mean, when we come in, we're not code enforcement, but if you're taking it down to the studs, I would recommend putting in whatever you're going to put in, like new electrical, plumbing, whatever, and then calling somebody to actually come look at it.
Gotcha.
Because we can evaluate those things that have been put in that are supposed to be new, but also look at the framing and say, this may be. I mean, this may be a 1940s house and may be holding up because they used nails that were like this thick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but is it up to today's standard? You may want to stick an extra beam in here, something like that.
Right.
So, always good to have an extra set of eyes.
So, question on houses, new builds versus pre-existing, like the older pre-existing homes. Is it true, the rumor, that they are better built?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, the
The
couple
wood's
of houses,
different.
It is. It's old growth wood.
right.
We have.
Explain
I mean,
what that is.
So old growth wood is like the tree's been growing for a really long time, and you cut it down and you mill it down and you build studs and beams and you put it up. The stuff that they use today, they chemically enhance so that the pine trees grow faster. Right, so you see these like huge tracts of land that they've cleared to harvest this
Right.
pine, but they grow back a lot faster than what they actually grew the first time, and so you have this like new growth wood, I guess you could call it, and so it's a lot more prone to warping, bowing, cracking. Just it's not as great. It's anything you stick hormones into, right? I mean, they talk about even your
Get it out of your food. No GMAs.
Yeah. So same thing with your no GMAs in your house.
Right. So basically, if I go to Lowe's or Home Depot and I'm looking at a 2x4, one, I've measured them. They're not quite 2x4s anymore.
Well, they're not.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other piece is it's impossible to find a straight piece of wood. It's impossible. Like I was doing a project at my house and I needed a straight piece of wood and I had to literally go through the entire stack in Lowe's to get a straight piece of wood.
And
it's
you probably
because
still didn't get one.
I had to cut the ends off. So that's because of growth hormones.
That's what I believe. Yeah.
Well, growth hormones and how they're producing the wood now, how they band it, how they, it's a lot of how they get it to the end user too.
Yeah.
So, and this might not be a question that you can answer. If, when I'm shopping for food, I like, grass-fed or no hormones added or whatever, because I think that can cause other growths like cancer in the body.
Yeah.
So if you have wood, can I get a house that has old growth wood? Is there custom builders out there? I want my house built like it was built in the 70s with, actual 2x4. Is there a way to do that?
So it would be very, very expensive. Use a Walmart, like most houses are kind of the Walmart of construction today, right? Walmart does great things, but like you're not going to necessarily get the highest quality stuff unless, maybe you go to Earth Fair or so a smaller place that's going to, take the time. They have more limited inventory, higher prices. If you want old growth, what you're going to look for is something that's engineered. And so I love this old house. Shout out to this old house. I would love to come and work for you guys if you're ever watching.
This old house.
This old house.
I'll watch it all the time.
The program. So on this old house, they actually will
That's
often,
on HGTV, right?
Yeah, I actually watch it through like the free Roku app.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So anyway, they use I believe it's called an LSL. I may be wrong on that, so don't skewer me, but it's they have what's called LVLs, a lot of laminated veneer lumber. That's what it's called. So they basically, it's a lot like they take plywood, the OSB, Austin Strand Board, and put a lot of pieces together and glue it and press it. This is a lot of the same stuff with strands. Usually it's cross laid and then glued and pressed together. And then they cut it into 2x4s or 1 3/4 by 3/4 of an inch.
So not only is it not the same wood, it's smaller.
It is. Yeah, you don't get true 2x4s. So you could have it cut true if you wanted to, but most people are not going to do that. You're building a new wall or whatever. If you're building a new wall, you use the stuff that they build today, and then you fur it out. I mean, it may be a little bit different, but I don't know if you can build. You probably, since it's engineered, you could probably buy them true 2x4 if you need to. But the engineered stuff, that's going to get you straight and true, non-bowing, but again, it's cost. Most people can't afford that stuff.
Well, the way to do it is, the reason that this whole house was made is to buy an old house that has all the wood in it already, and then just match up to it and customize that the way you want to do it. That way you don't have to rebuild and make everything.
In the episodes I'm watching right now, they took this, I think it was the 1970s or mid-century, I should say. They call it mid-century. And they literally, gutted it.
That house is badass.
Yeah. Multiple levels, kind of. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. They literally gutted the thing. But when they rebuilt the inside of it, and I don't think that even had true 2x4, because it's just mid-century. I don't think
it's got a lot of concrete in it.
Yeah, a lot of concrete. They built it back with these little LSL 2x, and that's what the interior of the walls are. So even old construction, you can rebuild with these LSLs. But again, it's a cost thing. People want to make as much on a flip or on a reno.
Right.
Investors want to make as much as possible, and so they'll buy the studs that are from Home Depot that you can get for real cheap.
Do you have a concern that the way the houses are being built now, they aren't going to last?
No, not necessarily. We have so many codes around wind loads, especially in our area. We actually have to fall under like hurricane requirements for 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Mm-hmm.
So wind loads, lateral loads. There's a lot of different engineering and structural requirements, and so I don't think that. I will say one thing. Maybe I shouldn't, but if you have houses with trusses and you have a house fire, you are probably going to lose the house. If you have
Because it's glued together.
No, because the gusset plates, when the wood heats up, the gusset plates pop off. I have a friend who's a firefighter, and he says when they can hear it go ding, ding, when they hear that, they back off, and they just got to let it come down. So
why is that? Bad engineering? Or?
No, it's just what wood does. When it heats up, it shrinks, and all the little gusset plates pop off. So they are built better than older houses. They're stronger. You can use smaller. You can use like 2x4s versus like 2x6s or 2x8s. On your custom built houses, right? So you can use smaller gauge lumber because of the engineering and the way that the loads are transferred onto the truss, and like basically
the
trusses have
is
two bearing points.
Right.
Like everything, it's like, remember in like middle school where you did like the egg drops and you had to build the thing to protect the egg? That's basically what a truss is. It has two bearing points typically on either end, and then all these diagonal cross sections, vertical sections. You would think that there's bearing points. It's not. It's actually making all the load transfer go to the exterior of the houses. And so, they're built really, really well. But I would not be afraid of buying an old house because it's old and has, some age to it.
Right.
I've found homes. I had this really cool country home up in North Carolina, and it had wood piers.
Oh, wow.
They were solid as a rock. They're like almost petrified. No termite damage. They were literally sitting on the dirt. And
it's still a strong home.
It was amazing. It was probably early 1800s, maybe mid 1800s home.
That's really cool.
Farmhouse. It was awesome. And so again, that old growth lumber though, it doesn't have that tendency to wick up moisture. When it dries and cures, it's hard as a rock.
Right. So essentially, with homes now, they are engineered better, so they're stronger, but the parts that go into them are actually weaker.
Yeah, they can be.
Right.
Yeah, but the way that they manufacture stuff and put it together, even the nailing patterns that they require. So like,
it's just engineered better.
It's just engineered better.
So I guess my only concern that kind of scares me, like I'm talking from a personal point now, is the engineered wood that they're, gluing together cross patterns and stuff. To me, I just don't like that.
Oh.
And I don't know if it's stronger than regular wood or if it isn't, but that's the only thing I was like, oh man, I don't know if I like the sounds of that. But if it's engineered better, it's a stronger product. It's allowing more housing to go up, so that's a good thing. So
it all depends on the process, right? If that LVL got wet during construction for a significant amount of time, it's going to pull that stranding apart, and so that's something you want to look at, right?
Right, absolutely.
You got to see that before you close it up, because if you don't, that stranding can still come apart, and it's going to be covered up with drywall. You're never going to see it again.
Yep, absolutely. That's why you want to do pre-drywall inspection. I think I'm out of questions.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything? Should I ask you something? Is there anything I should ask you?
I don't know. kind of more into phase inspections. If you're not local, having a trusted friend or advisor like myself or my team to go out and give you we've done weekly reports,
Right.
can be really, really helpful. Because you can have a friend or family member go out and like, oh, this is cool. FaceTime me. Like, look at all the pretty, like, this is going to be your bathroom. It's so beautiful. And they don't realize that, like, the shower seat is actually tilted back towards the wall,
Right.
little stuff. It's a really, really great idea to do something like that if you're not local,
For sure.
or can't be on site. We do HUD inspections.
Oh, awesome.
Yes. I'm actually working. I'm technically a licensed 203K inspector,
Perfect.
but I need to do more training on that before I kick that off. But we can do the HUD inspections as well. So we do all the things. We try to keep everything in house. So if you have a home that has a pool, we can inspect that in house.
Nice.
We do the termites, radon, well water sampling. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. So
Awesome.
try to make sure that when clients call us, they really just have to write one check.
Right.
And it's us. Even if we sub out like a septic inspection,
Right.
we're going to pay those people.
100%.
So,
Cool.
anyway. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Matthew Query, Freedom Home Services.
Thank you.
I'm Nick Campo. Go ahead and bang that red subscribe button and turn on notifications. Follow us, NBI Financial Group, on all of our social media. This is the Loan Guys Podcast. This is our Building Wealth Through Real Estate series. I'm MTG Man Nick, Mortgage Man Nick. Mike Allman, Mike_Allman07. And then Matthew, go ahead. Where?
Freedom Home Services LLC on Facebook and Freedom Inspections on Instagram.
Go follow him. He has some great stuff. He writes blogs. That's how, he did my home inspection. I would suggest that you guys use him for your home inspection. It's going to be much more thorough. Cannot say enough good things. Thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely.
And we're going to have you back soon.
Thanks.
All right.
Look forward to it.
Absolutely. We're out. Peace.
Peace.